Hey, it's Mike Mylan and Blaine Birch, and you're listening to episode 56 of Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. And I'm telling you what, this is the big day. This is the one. This is the one we've been teasing all summer long. We are going to introduce you to our new sponsor. I'll give you a little bit of taste. It's mylifeinabook.com. That's mylifeinabook.com. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. But man, let me introduce you to Blaine. What's up, man?
Oh, not much. I'm excited too. We did a little for you guys, just so you know, we did a little run through of our script for our little post about our new sponsor that's coming later in the show. And that was lots of fun. And I'm like, this is really cool. Like, it's a cool product. So that's why we're really excited about it too. Yeah, glad to be back online. We got a really good quote today. What beer are you drinking?
Well, I tell you what, I went outside of Texas and I went with one out of Maryland because I think I'm starting to get in the mood for Oktoberfest. So I found the Mad Bishop, and what drew me in was this sentence right here: "Craft be cherished, rules be damned." I'm like, anybody that's going to damn the rules, I'm going to go with that. So nice. I'm looking for a lot of spice out of this today. You know, Oktoberfest.
Nice. That's a good quote. So I have twice as hard Imperial IPA from Muskoka Brewery. Muskoka's in Ontario, so well east of us, but it just looks like a really good beer, and I had to give it a try. So it's Canadian, but it's a little bit further away, and but it's almost 9%, 8.5%, I think. So I'll have to take it easy here so we can keep.
Well, of course, I mean you still got to work after this, right? So I'm calling it quits for the day.
I do. We have a client meeting with an overseas client, so it's a really weird time zone. So it's but you know, a little bit of a gap. So I'll get a little food in me and back on the phone. So
couple more things we got to talk about beer. You had a big win from Calgary, Canada, online, right?
Yes. So
I'm gonna let you blow it out there.
Yeah. So someone, well, it said Chris, I think so thank you, Chris. Said Chris on the little blurb, bought 3 beer and said he's a huge fan, or she's not sure which, is a huge fan of Dry Run. So super excited about that. I'm really curious which Chris, so I'm going to try and dig that up. But Chris, if you know, just drop me an email and say I'm the Chris, so I know who you are, because we're really excited and I'm so grateful to have 3 beers. So you know what I'm going to do, because you're from Calgary, I'm going to feature 3 Calgary breweries. I've actually featured quite a few, so I'm still gonna have to find some breweries, but I'm going to try and feature Calgary breweries with those beers. So I really appreciate that.
So Chris W, I think is what the name was. Chris W from Calgary. Hey, that's our first Canadian sponsorship right there. That's our first Canadian fan. So at least it's promoted it. So that's pretty good. The second news is, remember when we talked about possibly having a brewery sponsor us for like a whole month?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. The month of October, I found a sponsor out of the blue. Breger, I think he's our number 1 fan. Breger comes to me with this, brewery in hand. And I'll go ahead and tell you what it is. It's going to be Rough House Brewery right here in Texas, San Marcos, right up the road. So I'm excited about it. We're just talking about it. So I'm going to be featuring their beers the whole month of October.
That's just awesome. I'm going to have to start banging on doors. Geez, I'm at breweries every weekend here. Maybe I should actually mention it to one of them. There's some of these breweries where they're every week for the last like 18 weeks. And maybe I should mention that. I never even thought of it, but I don't know if we're there on the weekends. I don't think the owners are necessarily there on the weekends. So, but I'm going to try and dig one of those up, because now I'm kind of jealous. You got your month of October all sorted.
Hey, planting a seed, but isn't it weird the last couple of months? There's been we're getting a pull into the market, right? I mean, we've been talking about it it took us a year really to get our first beer. Yeah. now we're selling shirts, we're getting sponsors, we're getting, brewery sponsors, we're getting, people buying us beers. I mean, it's starting to become a real deal. What do you think?
It is. And what's also kind of fun is now people, I bump into people and like, yeah, so-and-so was watching you, listening to your show last week. I'm like, really? That's really cool. And that's happened a couple of times, right? And it's just in the last just 2 weeks or so. And that's really kind of fun to know that, people are out there, they're listening to us and checking us out. And so that's really fun. So We better dive into the topic here. We're just gonna keep talking about people buying this beer.
Well, that's true. But you were talking about people listening, like my contractor, was building a pool.
Yeah.
There was a kind of a little adjustment I needed for him to make, and was talking to him about it. He goes, well, at least I didn't get kicked in the face. It shocked me. I'm like, oh, wait a second. You went back to an old episode and go, yep, okay, this is a bad day for you, but I didn't get kicked in the face.
Yeah. That was one of the best quotes. That was from a friend of mine. Some days you don't get kicked in the face.
That's right. So, all right. So we're going to dig into the topic, but hey, I want you to just give her today. You okay?
I always will. I'm always
I'm going to make that a thing. I'm going to make that a thing, right? It's going to become our thing. Just give her.
Yeah, so. Absolutely, man.
All right, today we're talking about a quote that was made by Spencer Fry, who's kind of an American business type coach, coaches, helps people, sell courses, online video systems, those type of things. He's built about four companies himself. He's out of New York, and he does a lot of authoring, does a lot of writing. Here's the original quote, and then of course what you'll see is we've had to shorten it for for us. But the original quote says, no more romanticizing about how cool it is to be an entrepreneur. It's a struggle to save your company's life and your own skin every day of the week, right? So, and I think if two guys in the world know that, it's you and I. But we're going to say, hey, it's a struggle to save your company's life and yourself every day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening to us. I think probably almost all entrepreneurs listening to us, that's probably who are most interested in us. And you can feel all the heads nodding around, because anyone who's been in the trenches and is building something and growing something and has that weight on their shoulders feels this. And it is very much a fraternity, and people that haven't run a business, I think oftentimes it looks easy from the outside. It always looks easy, especially success looks super easy. And it's so opposite. It's such a challenge all the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. It looks easy from the outside. People are watching you, here's Mike. He walks outside during the day, because he takes a little break from the computer. He's dressed in shorts and a t-shirt, it looks like a cool, type of job. Oh, he just sits in the house all day in his shorts. Well, that's not exactly true, right? There's a lot of things that have to happen. I mean, think about this podcast even. This is over a year in the making, just to get to the point where we're starting to get a couple of people, participate with us. The struggle is the consistency of doing it every single day. People miss out on that. And it's the overnight success that you talk about.
Yeah, it takes so much time, but time isn't the magic part. The magic part, like you said, it's that consistency. It's the systems, it's the process. It's adjustments and learning, and all of these things pile on to make a success. You can't just point to one thing. It's like, man, it's 50 things that all kind of have to go right. And over a long enough time period, it looks like it was easy. It looks like you're suddenly a success.
All right. So I'm going to say something personal here, right? I've had one panic attack in my life. I mean, where it woke me up out of the bed. I could not figure out what's going on. I mean, I was minutes away from, waking up the wife and saying, you got to take me to the hospital. And I would have been one of those stories of, oh yeah, it's just a panic attack. It's not a heart attack. Yeah. But it's like, I couldn't catch my breath. I could feel my heart everywhere. I almost felt like I was going to pass out over and over and over again. And it probably didn't last that long, but it lasted long enough for me to think it did.
Yeah.
And it was around the time I think I had opened my third or fourth office in the hotel staffing company. So think about that. That means that I'm just starting growth. And when you're just starting growth, you don't have it figured out yet. I mean, I ended up opening 27 offices, but at 3 or 4, the processes weren't in place. So everything was a hassle. Everything was a grind, right? Yeah. People, all you saw was, oh, he opened an office in Kansas City. He opened an office in St. Louis. He's got an office in Tucson. People saw that. Yeah. They didn't see that, oh my God, I don't know if I can make payroll. I don't know if I got enough money to even pay rent this month in Tucson. Yeah. They didn't see that part where I hadn't figured out how to do a line of credit yet. And I hadn't figured out, there was a period of time for almost a year, I didn't take a paycheck, a regular paycheck. I mean, I was just like, if there's something left, I'll take it, or I'll wait till checks come in and then I'll take some off, for me. But there was a period of time when I was stressed about money and growth.
Yeah. And what I will say is that ditto, because I could have said almost that exact same story. I've experienced panic attacks before. I've had struggles with, how many sleepless nights and that making payroll, like that. You hear that, but that is such a major thing. And I had an entrepreneur on my other podcast, Turning Point, that I do occasionally, a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking a little bit about it, and she brought up, some of the mental health issues that a lot of times entrepreneurs face because there's so much, at times so much pressure and stress. And, I was on a webinar today, and the woman that was sort of leading the webinar, she's an entrepreneur and quite a very successful one. And the topic was something to do of how to scale up to the 20 million range, which is huge and hard. And she was talking about when she says, when we first started the business, she goes, our cash flow was so tight. And he goes, my staff, she goes, it's different now. My staff still doesn't know this. They're learning right now. She says, our cash flow was so tight that when we wrote paychecks to pay our staff, she said, we always hand wrote them in checks because we were praying they wouldn't all deposit them right away.
Oh, wow.
And she goes, we never had a check bounce. And she goes, by complete luck. It was that close every week for weeks, months, years. I'm not sure, but it was a long time. That's how tight they were, because they were totally bootstrapped. And and she goes, nobody knows that. She goes, my partners know it. We all know it. Nobody else knows that. And it's as the leader, you're putting on a happy face. You have to make sure that team is comfortable and confident, and they shouldn't feel the pressure that you do. But boy, there's a lot.
And I'm telling you, it's. Have you ever heard it's like an African parable? Is that the word or whatever? That I think relates really closely to this situation, and it goes something like this. It says, every morning in the Serengeti, a lion wakes up knowing that he has to be faster than the slowest antelope to eat that day. Mm. At the same time, an antelope wakes up knowing that he has to be faster than the fastest lion in order to survive. And so the moral of the story is, it doesn't matter if you're the lion or the antelope, you better get up and start running. Yeah. I mean, and that's the same thing in business. It's like you've got to get up and start running, because everything there, it's like a wave, right? When you're talking about money, when you're talking about business, you talk about your operations, it's a big wave that's building behind you. You either got to stay in front of it, or it crashes on top of you.
Yeah. And you have no chance. You have no alternative. You have no wiggle room. You just have to go. And so I know there's been, days over, because I'm old, been in business for over 20 years. And I still know the feeling of those days where it feels like your feet are in 2 blocks of concrete. It's like you're just, oh man, literally it's almost hard to walk, because it's like there's so much pressure down on you, and there's so many things pushing on you. And a lot of times it is cash flow. A lot of times it is money, it's finance. That's so often where that pressure comes from.
Do you have that dream? I have that dream, on occasion, not as much anymore, but where I don't care if I'm fighting and I can't punch, everything's in slow motion, or I'm running, I can't just get going, Is that just me?
I don't think I've had that exact one, but I've had there's variations that have come from the same thing. I think, it's and you know what, the funny thing is, I guess it's not funny, but a lot of times I don't wake up in the middle of the night, I don't remember my dreams or anything. When you do is when you're under that pressure and that stress, and something wakes you up, and that's where you go, oh man, that's something going on here.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we've talked about that, whereas there are some nights where it's not restful. I know I'm asleep, but I'm still working. I mean, it's like I'm at work. There are things happening in my dream that are the same things here. And believe it or not, I've solved problems that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, I solved one the other day. Forget what it was. There was a way for me to deliver some downloadable content on my new website. I'm like, oh, I can do it that way. And I know that came from my sleep. I don't know where else it would came from.
Yeah. It's well, like my co-founder, I think it was even like a couple of weeks ago, he made a comment. He said, yeah, I'm just about to go into this point where it's a little bit tricky architecture wise. And he goes, I'm going to start dreaming about code. And then this morning he said something like, yeah, no, I'm totally like almost nightmare with this code. Cause it's just this, when it's a real challenging thing like that, he just kind of, you have to get over that. And I haven't done a lot of coding, but I remember years ago, I did some, and I still remember waking up in the middle of a dream and it felt like I was in a giant art gallery. And there are these giant like banners that were like probably 50 feet tall and just kind of hanging down from the ceiling. And it all had code on it. Like, oh, this is not right. This is not right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's just creepy. And I was doing a tiny bit, like I barely know enough to be dangerous. Right. So it's, just a different kind of pressure, but more as my role CEO, it's generally, probably should be money floating around on those things, right? That's the pressure.
Oh, what's funny about that is the companies I work with, the software companies, those guys get into a trance, guys, girls get into like a trance, and they got their headphones on and they can just like see it. Like, it's everything's there and it's so in the moment and in that code that I'm hearing, and maybe you can, verify this, that if you break somebody when they're in flow, like distract them or, hey, tap them on the shoulder, it almost takes them 20 minutes to get back to the same point where they're back in that much of a focus.
Yeah, exactly. It's I try not to, but sometimes I forget and I do something like, oh, I probably shouldn't have sent that Slack message. I hope it didn't interrupt, because it's more important that, they're making progress. They're moving forward. They're fast, right?
Did you do that on purpose?
What's that?
Progress? Did you do it on purpose?
No, I didn't. I've
see, every time we make progress, you revert. It's like we don't talk for a week, and all of a sudden you go back.
Well, I've done a pretty good job on process, but progress is not related. It's totally different words. So now I got to relearn that one. So Mazda, pasta, process, progress is not, I wouldn't have even made that connection that's actually a different way. But now when who was it was someone literally just up here in Canada the other day said process, and I almost corrected them.
That would have been funny.
That would not have gone over very well either.
Yeah, that would have been really funny. They said, wow, you're talking to too many Americans.
Exactly.
All right. So, here's the first sentence in that quote is no more romanticizing, right? So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit, because we think that that's what it is. Even if I look at you at Dry Run, I know some of the struggles that you have. We talk.
Yeah.
I still look at that as an enviable position that you're in. Does that make sense? It's like I'm romanticizing. Like, oh, he's the CEO of Dry Run. And that's a big deal for me, right? That you're in that position. So even me, I can fall into that trap of romanticizing, an entrepreneur. Which,
because being in this chair, I'm like, I don't romanticize this at all. But I will probably think the same thing. I do think same thing. Like Cashflow tool, and you guys were such a success there, and your Cashflow and Mike stuff is blowing up and doing such cool stuff. It's easy from the outside to believe that everyone else has these successes. And as I talk with other entrepreneurs all the time, it's amazing, because when you sit down with another entrepreneur, it's like they pull back the curtain like immediately. Like, it's never deep into the conversations. Like, holy shit, you should have heard what happened to me this week. And in fact, I ran into a friend of mine the other day, and he was walking into a coffee shop. He had a client in there, and he's like, he said, yeah, we got to catch up. Let's go for lunch, all this stuff. And in like the 30 seconds we were talking, it was like, yeah, no, we got to deal with this stuff right now. And it's a real challenge because we got to deal with this, that, and the other. And like that, it's instant. Right. But from the outside, it's just feels like it's just like it's amazing. And I think even as entrepreneurs, you look at other businesses and go, how come it's so easy for them from the outside, right? Because it seems easy. And then you understand why the general public or people that aren't entrepreneurs can think it's so easy, because everything looks easy to them. It's like, oh man, it's like you should all be billionaires already, right?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that the best way I can describe it is my daughters, right? Brett, Shay, Rory. They had rooms all on the second floor. I could just go one by one. It was almost like a dorm up there. All their doors right next to each other. And you send them up there to clean the room. So think of them as entrepreneurs. As soon as I open the door, it looks pretty clean. But then I open the closet and stuff falls out. Or I lift up the skirt on the bed and you just see everything shut up there. And that's the way I imagine, myself as an entrepreneur, like going, okay, when you look at what I'm doing, looks pretty cool. But yeah, don't look at my filing system. Don't look at my calendar, the way I duct tape this together.
Yeah, it's that's we always talk about, like that was put together duct tape and chicken wire. Like that's just, we always have that comment going. It's just so but kind of blows my mind, right? Like, and you see there's this, you romanticize other businesses, and a lot of things I romanticize, I guess, for other businesses are things that I think would be like, oh, that'd be so cool to, that skateboard company, man, it'd be really cool to do that for a living. It'd be really cool to have that kind of business that builds that kind of product that does, because it seems so cool. But like, Frick, we are drinking beer every week, and I know I'm like, it would scare the shit out of me. I don't know enough about it to ever do it, but I'm looking like, man, have one of those really little microbreweries that just is making amazing beer. That just seems so amazingly cool. But I guarantee you, if we talked with the owner for 2 minutes, we would start hearing about the challenges, right?
Oh, easy. Well, and because I ran 3 bars, everyone I go to, I start to look at it, and compare it to what I know about the bar business, right? I mean, it's what maybe you do the same thing with design or advertising or even talking to other software people. But there's this one in Austin, and I'm only telling the story because you said chicken wire. It's a roadhouse in Austin, and we were looking for something to do on a Sunday, and there was not very many things to do in Austin on a Sunday. Yeah. But there's this one place that does what they call chicken shit bingo.
Oh yeah, you were talking about this. Yeah.
But when you go in, it's like a live band, and I can't remember what type of band it was, but it didn't match up with the chicken theme in the backyard. Because inside it was kind of nice, right? It was nice, but it was a little roadhouse, and they had a band going, and people were dancing, and it had a whole different atmosphere, and then a whole different set of customers in the back. And you're like going, man, how hard is it to manage 2 different types of crowds like that? Because some people are just coming there just to bet on the chicken, right? And if you don't know anything about chicken shit bingo, I didn't, but they got this cage with the plywood board on the floor, and it's just square. It's like 100 squares or something like that, and you buy a square, right? Or you can buy 10 squares, right? Like, and you pick random numbers, and I want number 5 and 15 or whatever it is. And when they put one chicken in there, like every 15 or 30 minutes, something like that, they only put one in, and they throw chicken feed all around this board, and the chicken goes in there and just pecks the feed until it has to go to the bathroom. Wherever goes to the bathroom on that number gets the money. So it's like, but I'm thinking that's the simplest idea in the world when I look at it from the outside. But this guy, this owner is probably like going, dude, I got to raise these chickens. I got to deal with them all week. He's got a different set of problems that I don't even think about while I'm there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to ask him, because like, that's the thing, is it'd be really cool to hear. So what do you have to, like, what's involved with that? There's probably all kinds of stuff that we don't know about, but I'm just looking on the backyard, and I'm like, put a little bingo board out there. We do get all the neighbors over and do a little chicken shit bingo. And
there you go. All right. So you know what it's time for? We have never done a commercial on this show, right? It's about the halfway point of the show right now. We've never done a commercial, but we are so super excited about this company. And if you haven't checked it out, go to mylifeinabook.com. It's exactly what I want my family to do, right? My family to do, because my grandmother's got stories. Everybody in the family's got stories that as you live and generations go, they either devolve, people forget the details are wrong. This is a way to pass down your families or your friendship. Hey, you could even do it with your friends. Like me, you and I could just have a history of what we've done together, and we could keep it and pass it down to folks. So are you ready to do our first commercial?
Let's do it. We're going to get a lot better at this because we've ran through it, but this is the first time live.
All right. So it is mylifeinabook.com. And today's episode is sponsored by mylifeinabook.com. And I tell you what, this is probably the most thoughtful gift I've ever come across for my parents, for grandparents. I mean, it doesn't matter the occasion. I mean, it could be birthday, Christmas, man, anything. I tell you, it's basically a powerful way to connect emotionally with those people and preserve their most precious memories, right? So I remember them later, so I can pass them down to my kids and then show them that I really care about them enough to want to hear their stories. And best of all, Blaine, it's an instantaneous gift. It's something that you can do even at the last minute.
And that's great for me because sometimes I'm not prepared for that. But every week, My Life in a Book lets you choose from a list of thought-provoking questions, or even write your own, which gets sent to your relative by email. And then your relative writes their answer and can choose to add a meaningful picture. This is the cool part. I think this is absolutely brilliant. This happens every week. And then at the end of the 1 year, all the stories get combined into a beautiful keepsake book that you can store your relatives' memories forever, and you can pass them on to future generations, which are printed and sent to you.
Yep. And I tell you what, their website is awesome. We just checked it out right before the show, and you can request as many copies of these things that you want, even get it in an audio format as well. So mylifeinabook.com is where you can give those that you love the most a personal gift that tells them you're really meaningful. And it tells everyone, all future generations, that their stories are meaningful to you, right? Right now, Blaine, they gave us a promo code, right? You can save $10 off your first purchase. Go to mylifeinabook.com and use discount code NOBODY, NOBODY, nobody at checkout. That's mylifeinabook.com and use discount code NOBODY to get $10 off your first purchase.
I just love that the code was nobody. It wasn't Night and Mike and Blade. It's more memorable.
Right? Yeah, you can remember nobody, right? So.
But I just think this is such a cool idea. And I wish I would have done this with some of my grandparents when we're still around. I wish they had this. The thing that I think is so amazing is what they've taken was a problem. And the problem is, what are you going? You sit down with a relative and it's like, hey, I'm going to grill you for 2 hours. You're not going to get anywhere. It's not going to work. This is like little bite-sized chunks. And over a year, it's like little simple answers and you build a book. I think that's the absolute brilliance, is how easy it is to do this.
And you know what's funny is I sit on the couch and I can listen to my grandparents and my uncles tell stories all night long. Just sit there and listen. But I hear them and they're gone the next day. Right?
In one ear and out the other. Exactly. Yeah.
That's right. And you remember bits and pieces. I mean, I even had my daughter last week tell me a story about my own uncle that I had forgot. Really, I forgot about that. So this is a way to preserve your family memories and make sure that your history is passed down and it's appreciated by all.
Yeah, it makes lots of fun because you interact with your relative every week. It makes it easy for them, and then also you don't have to compile everything in some, like, oh, I don't know how to make a book. Well, they make it for you. So this is just an absolutely terrific product, and I can't wait to see the results of one of these books. I think it's amazing. I think I'm going to have to dive in and give this a try because it's just a terrific way to do it. So thanks again for sponsoring us, because we really appreciate you sponsoring us, but this is so cool. I really love it.
Hey, so that was Mike and Blaine just giving her on our first commercial.
Yeah. First one. Yeah.
I told you I'm going to make that a thing. If you haven't seen it, we also have shirts now on our website of Just Giving Her. We've actually bought or sold some of those, and they're my favorite, right? I don't know why it is. I like those right now.
Oh, you can't pass up a Just Giving Her shirt. Like that's just, we should get a few Canadians buying from there, because that's just, although for a bunch of Canadians, they may also just kind of go, oh, yeah, that's just this. It's just the same. Of course, you're just giving her. Like,
we do that every day, all the time. We just give her.
In fact, it was I don't know if it was a friend or relative the other day actually used that in a sentence that I just about burst out laughing, because they were not, but it's just part of conversation that I probably wouldn't have noticed before. And then I almost started laughing. Like, yeah.
Isn't that funny? So, I mean, you told it to me and I'm like, I'm making that a thing. I don't, and I'll give Canadians credit for it. It's their thing. But I'm going to bring it all the way down to the south part of Texas here.
Let's do it. It's time to make it international. It's too good.
Yeah, you guys have been holding on. I mean, all the best stuff comes from there, from comedy standpoint, I think.
There is some good comedy out of Canada, some really good comedians out of Canada.
Yeah, right on. All right, so back to it. The struggle. We go right from laughing to back to the struggle.
To just the struggle. That's how it is, though. That's what it feels like. It's like it's entrepreneurs can tend to kind of make things light and have some fun, because it's a struggle like every day. Like the quote says, this is every day. Some days you're closer to the edge than others, but it's a fight every single day.
And the story you told about, them, almost floating checks, like going, I hope nobody, but the idea was kind of brilliant, right? Because not everybody, and if they would have held off to like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, think about it. Then at least you get one extra day before it hits the business.
You get one extra day. Yeah, exactly. And that's a scary way to, but like I can see where they're coming from. And I know, like there's been times in my past that, especially early on in our agency days, there were times where we were sitting there waiting for a customer to pay us, and waiting. And we finally ran out of time and cut our own checks. Like, we put money in our bank account to pay the team, and you're still fighting to get that check to come in so that you can get back to zero and then pay yourself. Right. And not because I'm like you, I went I've gone long stretches, especially with dry run, because it was a startup like that, without paying myself. People don't know that. They don't realize that's not unusual. Like that's common. That's really, really common, especially for any sort of bootstrapped company. They don't pay themselves for a long time.
I mean, even if it's $500, you're like going, oh, I could use that for marketing. I could use that for, every little thing is like going, I could use that money for something else. I don't need it. You almost kind of wait till you need it, where you're actually in trouble yourself before you make a different decision. But as long as you can kind of cover.
And I think that's the thing, like experienced entrepreneurs, if they've gone through their number 2 or number 3 business, it is rarely, let's start with the big office. That's usually the first time mistake. I remember this must have been 15 years ago, something like that. My wife and I were at a restaurant. I don't even remember where this was. It wasn't even in Canada. I just can't remember where it was. And the table next to us, there was 2 couples, and they were having this giant celebration. And because they're right beside us, we couldn't help but overhear. They were starting a business, and it was the biggest celebration. And there was the bottles of everything on the table, and it was like epic, because they were starting a business. And I remember looking at Heather and saying, those guys won't be here a year from now. Like, there's no chance, because you could tell that they loved the idea of it. And it's like they were more intent on having a party, because they were so excited. We've made the plunge and we're going to be jillionaires. That was the feel. And it just felt like, that's so counter to what it is and what the grind is and how hard it is. I would be surprised if they were around in 6 months, let alone a year. Just it just was the wrong approach, right?
You remember how I lost, all that money on that herbal supplement Recover?
Yes, I do. Which I still think is a good product, actually.
Actually, product's fantastic. And here's what happened, though. I mean, it wasn't the party, right? We did have a party.
Yeah.
But we had just gotten the big distributor. We had just gotten Walgreens. So we had a kind of a photo thing with Walgreens and Glazier's logos on it, because we were trying to drive traffic back to Walgreens, right? Remember, the whole thing was contingent on the sales there. So we at Jim Edmonds 5, I remember now, it was like we had a big party there. So Jim Edmonds was the center fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he had a restaurant in St. Louis, kind of a hip, trendy, right? So we went there and had a big party. It was fantastic. Packed. It was just a great party, but it was meant to generate interest in the product. We had plenty of it around. So we open bar. So drink, take the product with you, take it tonight, give us feedback, right? So the party was actually part of the strategy. So not every party bad. I don't no, that's not what killed us. It was it was not being able to spend enough on TV and radio. We just had money to keep up with it.
No. This was very specific. No, I actually think that is that makes perfect sense. First of all, one of the things and I know I'm not good at it, is celebrating wins.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at it. Fortunately, some people on my team notice, and I'm already climbing up the next hill. Go, and so celebrating wins is really important. But the win is something you've accomplished, and having using it to actually generate interest in the product. That's like all of the stuff. That's all completely valid. The reason with this was very specific. They hadn't started anything. They hadn't done anything yet. They hadn't started anything yet. They were having a party because they decided to go into business together. That was it. All they had was, we've come up with an idea, but it wasn't even the feel of it was, we've already won.
Yeah.
And they hadn't even started the business yet. And I thought that is a recipe for disaster, because there was no strategy. Because I was sitting next to him and I'm like, people starting a business. And there wasn't strategies, nothing. It was just how brilliant they were for starting a business. And like, no, there's going to be some hard lessons there. Very different. Yeah.
I can get that. But I mean, Recovery was late night recovery. We were trying to create evangelists that night. And social media just kind of taking off, like 2011-ish. So we're like going, okay, well, we can get a bunch of people in here, allow them to partake of adult beverages, give them the remedy, and they will tell us great things about us.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a very specific outcome there. That makes perfect sense. So so I wasn't trying to say like, if you do a party, you're wrong. No, not that. 1,000 times away from that. It was just the idea that they had already won when they hadn't even got to the starting line. So
here's what I can tell you about that business. If you're going to sell a hangover pill, we went to every event, every festival, everywhere. That's a young person's game. me in my 50s, I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, we actually had to hire like street teams to go out there and pass our stuff out. It will say Mardi Gras right there in St. Louis. Yeah. Why not? Why not try to pass it out and get it in people's hands so they can check it out? Now thinking about that today, 10, 12 years ago, people might accept Recover and take it. They see it on TV, they hear it on the radio at that point in time. I don't know if I'm taking some pills from somebody on the street today.
I don't think you are. It's a little different world. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that marketing technique is going to work today.
Yeah. It's you don't see much of that anymore. I did see in a beach community we're at a few months ago, I did see the Red Bull people walking through, and they had a backpack and they would pull a can out, but they always opened it and would hand an open can to people of Red Bull. And I'm just getting old, so I'm like, I don't need the extra caffeine. I don't
like the taste of it. I cannot get into the taste of it. Any energy drink. It isn't just Red Bull. It isn't. I mean, and I own
not
bars.
really my thing either.
Became popular, right? When that became popular, everybody's doing Red Bull bombs or some type of bomb.
Yeah.
I just did not like it at all.
I'm the same. I remember actually, I think it may have been in Texas. I'm pretty sure it was in Texas. I was in a bar in Texas with a bunch of guys. I think we were South by Southwest. I'm pretty sure this was where we were. And someone got a round of Jaeger bombs, which is Jaeger with Red Bull. And I was like, just give me straight Jaeger. Like I'm the only one with, don't throw a Red Bull.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it with that stuff.
Like it's 1 a.m. and you want me to have a Red Bull? Like, no, I'm getting a cab to go to sleep soon, right? Like, so I'm just like, just give me. So I was the responsible one of just give me the pure alcohol. That's the way to do it.
I had a buddy. He would buy a beer and drink a Jaeger bomb. That's just how he drank. He ordered 2 at a time. And then he graduated from Jaeger to a Vegas bomb, and I'm not quite sure what's in a Vegas bomb.
Never heard of that.
I don't know what it is, but Breger, can you look up Vegas bomb? And text me. That's like an Easter egg now, and see if he listens this far in.
Yeah, maybe it's just like dried out, and it gets down to where it's really thick or something. It's so dry there. That's a Vegas bomb, just like syrup. That's what you're drinking.
That's funny. All right. So have you ever had a legal problem in business?
Nothing, honestly, nothing big, nothing really big, knock on wood, fortunate, very glad. But I have had like I had, like the sale of my last business, and there was a little bit of friction there and everything. And, you always have lawyers involved that take the incredible amount of money. Raising the one thing I will say, not legal issues, but legal fees are absolutely almost crippling to a business. And I know the amount of money that raising funds that went to the lawyers for basically boilerplate stuff was flabbergasting to me. So, but I feel like I've been very fortunate. I would like when you're talking about that, like I haven't been sued or anything. So I get like, I'll take that as a win.
Yeah. I mean, I got sued, whole different story.
Okay.
That's a whole different level of stress. And one of these days I'm going to talk about it on this show, right? Because that was the most bullshit thing that's ever happened in my life. But here's this, a legal issue that happened in, I don't know, 2005-ish. Whenever E-Verify came out, it was before that. So you can go back. E-Verify is kind of the government. You type in the social security number and they tell you, hey, it's legit or not legit. Okay. Well, I just opened an office in Arizona. I think I had one around Scottsdale somewhere. Actually, I think our office is in the Phoenix area though. And then one in Tucson, the hotel staffing company. Yeah. And after about 6 or 8 months of working there, I mean, we're paying wages, we're collecting feather withholding, we're paying, making our whatever when we made our first payments for Social Security. It's like every quarter, you make a payment now, or maybe every month. I don't remember what schedule we were on now. But anyway, we're making payments to the government for taxes we withheld and Social Security. I got a stack of letters, maybe 15 different no match letters from the Social Security office, right? Whereas the Social Security numbers I submitted and I paid Social Security on didn't match with other details about that person, like the name didn't match. And not all of them are bad, right? Not all, some of them are like going, they go by one name, but legally on their Social Security card is something else. So it just doesn't match. So what you have to do as an employer is go back in, verify. You have to go and say, hey, listen, this number doesn't match this name or this date of birth. I need some other type of documentation, because I would have a copy of the ID and a copy of the Social Security number, and whatever the government had doesn't match, right? They say they're Jane Doe. It comes back, it's Natalie Jackson, something like that. Or it could be not Jane Doe, but it could be Addison Jane Doe, right? And their real name's Addison Doe, not Jane Doe. Yeah. They go by Jane, so they fill everything out Jane, right? So I mean, anyway, it doesn't match. And all you have as an employer, you got to go back and verify what that is and get another piece of documentation to figure it out. Well, the ones that are trying to do things without the right documentation, as soon as you ask them for documentation, they don't show up for work the next day.
Oh no. Yeah.
That's what scared me the most, right? I didn't want to be an employer that was known for not doing things the right way. And here I am getting government letters about, my payroll isn't right. And I had at that point in time, 200 and some employees, and I got 15 no match letters. All of them came from a border state. Like, oh man, we got to figure out how to do this better. And then E-Verify came in and saved all the stress. But that stress, that struggle is like, oh my God, am I the guy they talk about on TV? Am I that guy? I didn't want to be, and I had proof of everything we'd done.
Yeah,
man, it's so scary. It is so scary.
We had I guess this is less legal and more government, but back in my agency days, we started using a payroll service, and they were, like, oh, we'll help you set it up and blah, blah, blah. And we set it all up, and a couple months in, or a few months in, we had actually, I think it was, we'd actually overpaid deductions. Like it was really bizarre. Anyway, so CRA, which is the IRS Canadian version, sent a lady to our office. And all I remember is after day one, we called her the Dragon Lady. It was like pure evil, like the, Sith from Star Wars walked into the office, lightning bolt you and stuff. And, and here we're this little itty bitty business, and we're like, this is not even very much money, but it didn't match. And because it didn't match what it was supposed to match, they freaked the hell out. And, but fortunately at the time, our accountant just kind of said, any question, send it over to me. And she just went through everything. And like, I'm talking like, I thought she was going to take our toilets apart. Like it was ridiculous. And we just say, talk with our accountant, talk with our accountant. And that just made her madder and madder because she couldn't dig anything up. And in fact, she couldn't dig anything up. We just and it was just like, how does this make sense for anybody? Like that, after she left, and in the end, basically she left, and it was kind of like, there was nothing. And it was literally almost like, well, we couldn't catch you on anything, so see you later. And it was like, I think it was a couple of weeks of extreme stress and this awful, and I'm going to be honest here. It was an awful person wandering around our office, just being awful. And I'm like, we're a tiny little business here. We're paying our staff, we're paying our taxes. Why is this happening? And then they leave and kind of like, see you later. It was just awful, right?
You know what's funny is that I think that if the government picks on you and they're wrong, in your case, they should be penalized and have to pay you for your time.
They should, because the amount of time that we wasted on this. And the dumb thing is, we were a small business. Like, this was early days. If they had found something, I don't think they would have made any money off this anyway. Like, how much, what you're $200 out. Like, what on earth could they have possibly got out of that? That sort of bureaucracy and things just drives me batty, because this goes all the way back to our quote on how hard this is. And then you have the people that weren't paying the most, the tax, paying the government the taxes, and they make it the hardest. And that to me is like, geez, maybe you guys should treat us like a partner, because we're paying your bloody bills, and they don't care.
Yeah. But I think if the government was penalized when they're wrong, they would be a lot more diligent about starting an investigation and impacting your business prior to having the facts.
They would, but I wouldn't put it past them to say, well, if we're wrong, we're going to charge you a few extra bucks, like, for no reason. That's cynical, but that's how I feel.
I think if you're wrong and I owe extra $1,000 or whatever I'm off, okay, well, I'll pay that. I'm wrong. But you got to come with more than just a hunch, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to go through this, we're going to dig deep and we're going to go into every receipt for the last 3 to 7 years or whatever they go back at. Be right.
Yeah. And there's things that I think are as hard as it is for entrepreneurs, they make it harder. And I know, like, I don't really want to go down this path, but like, but it is like, this is some of the things that make it so hard for businesses, so challenging. And like as a tech startup, I remember we, like, early days, we got some grants, but the grants were, it would help us pay our staff, like not staff, like a staff member, a part of their salary. I'm early on, I'm not paying myself a dime, and there's no way I can get anything to help pay myself a dime. They're making taxes the split second that I hire somebody. And so those taxes have covered this small grant. And by the time the small grant's out, now it's all on my shoulders. Now I'm paying staff. And I'm kind of like, the only one that hasn't got paid is me. And I'm the only reason that there's jobs. I'm the only reason that this is all happening. And at the same time, I'd be paraded out as, innovation tech, and, it still happens every once in a while. It's like press release, and you go stand there and look how great our businesses are doing. And I'm still like, yeah, you guys are getting paid, staff's getting paid. I'm not getting paid yet, like at the time. Right. And, it didn't jive, right? It didn't, there was this lack of appreciation, and it actually goes probably into they probably don't really understand it, but government was even romanticizing the entrepreneur and romanticizing how good things were going and all this kind of thing. And we're like, I'm the one that's lying awake and not getting paid, right?
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? They want people to go out there and be innovative, create businesses, turn money back, employee wages back into tax dollars, but they make it hard for you to do that.
Make it hard, and they make money. They make all their money. They might give you a little bit, they're making it back right away. And it just makes it hard. And man, sometimes I just kind of go like, if there was a government that actually would literally loosen their purse strings a little bit, they could generate a lot of business, get a lot of little businesses over that first little hump. Not everyone's going to survive, but get them over that hump where they're really generating some income, right?
Yeah. Speaking of income, if you want to support us by buying us a beer,
you could probably tell, okay, I got to qualify my last, like, probably 20 minutes. I just a heavy beer.
Yeah. But you can go to mikeandblaine.com. We've got plenty of ways to get involved, right? The way that nobody's really gotten involved yet is using the contact us. You want us to talk about something, you want to, have your voice heard, you got an opinion that you think, is valuable, that we should share, go to contact us, shoot us a message. We'll talk about it. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about it. But we do have, what else is on the website, Wayne?
Well, it actually has all the breweries that we've featured, and we love small craft breweries. We love independent breweries. We're always supporting them. So go check out who we featured there. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, make sure you follow us. Click on subscribe. I think it is, not follow us. Click on subscribe. Or you can even actually go to our Facebook page, and you can follow us on our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, because then you're going to get those our episodes, right?
I got a notification during this episode that Angie Dennis Rozelle just followed us while we were talking just now. Just ended up following us. And Angie, you're my cousin. Love you.
Okay.
Hey, if your family don't love you, who will?
Exactly. Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Angie. We love everybody listening to us. And now Mike should have said just not qualified it as a cousin, because it sounds better. But still awesome. We appreciate it.
That's kind of honest and transparent. And then, hey, thank
That's
you
true.
to our sponsors, My Life in the Book, mylifeinabook.com, mylifeinabook.com. $10 off. Use the discount code nobody. Go do it. Show them you love them. It's going to be a great gift for you and your family this year.
Give it a try. And you know what? This is a good time because you can get started and work way through. And you know, if you start now, you start this fall, you're going to have a great Christmas present for 23, and you can actually distribute that amongst some of your family. So get started today. That's going to be a great gift.
Yeah, right on. So, hey, another good episode. Episode 56 is in the books. Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine, and Blaine Birch is my partner. Thanks for everything, Blaine.
Thanks, man. Until next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And if you're watching us live, thanks for joining us live.